What's up everybody, welcome back. So in the last episode we added our health pickups and we have a pretty complete gameplay loop by now. It's a simple game but it works. So at this point I want to take a look at adding some of the UI stuff. And over here I have an example of the project that's a bit further down the line. So for this episode we're going to start by adding the main menu and do a little bit of setup for the lobby menu. And later at the series we're also going to take a look at adding an options menu inside of the main menu and a change player option, so you can give your player a name and save and load those profiles, and it will keep track of some high scores and things like that. So we're going to do the basic setup for the main menu, where we will just have the single player, host game, find game and quit game buttons, and later in the series we're going to expand this a little bit as well. So that's what we're going to do today. And I want to take a look at the health pickup first before we start looking at the main menu. So let me quickly launch a game of our current project. So by now, if our health pickup spawns and it actually starts to flicker when it almost disappears, then if we pick it up we get an error. So I want to take a look at that and fix that one up first. So I'm going to wait till the pickup starts flickering, and now if I pick it up and close the game, oh, it doesn't have the... Okay, I already have the fix in here, I'm sorry. So let me get rid of this and try again. So if I play the game and do the same thing again, then you will see an error that starts to pop up. So we're gonna fix that one. There we have one of our pickups. And it's flickering. So now if I pick it up and close the game, you will have this error. So it will not be able to set the visibility because it's pending kill or already in the garbage collection. So if we close down the error and we open our pickup health, then we want to go to the component begin overlap event. And over here, when the player actually picks up the pickup, we forgot to add the clear timer by function name. So the timer will still be running and it will still try to set the visibility for something that isn't there anymore because it's already been removed. So what we're going to do is right at the beginning, after the two branches, we're going to simply add the clear timer by function name, and we want to clear the timer for the pickup timeout. So that's the timer that we set in begin play over here. So add this little note to the on component begin overlap, and that will get rid of the error. So now we can compile and save our pickup, and then we probably also want to go into our enemy base. And over here for the on-wrap hit location die, we spawn the pickup if we have a certain spawn chance. That's correct. And over here we have it set at 75%, so there's going to be a lot of pickups spawning right now, and you probably want to lower this. So I'm going to set it to 10, and that will make the pickups a bit more rare, so it's a bit harder to complete the game. So I'll leave this up to you. You can leave the number as high or low as you want it. Obviously I'm going to set it to 10 over here, and this will make the spawn health pickup a 10% chance basically. So let's compile and save that one. And now we are ready to start working on the main menu and do a little bit of setup for the lobby menu as well. So first of all, we want to create two simple blueprints that we're going to use inside of the main menu and also inside of the lobby menu. So I'm going to go to my gameplay folder and add a new folder in here and call this menus, open it up. And in here I'm going to create a new blueprint class, and that's simply going to be an actor. And I'm going to call this my blueprint menu mech. So this is the model of the mech that we're going to spawn in the background of the menu. So we don't really want to spawn the entire actual player character. We're just going to spawn a skeletal mesh basically that is a blueprint. So let's open it up. For the class defaults, the first thing we want to do is make sure that this actually replicates, so that the host can spawn it and then it will be replicated to all of the other players. So enable replicates over here. And then we're going to set up the components, and that's going to be pretty simple. So first of all, I'm going to add a scene component and replace the root to get rid of the billboard over here. And then we're going to add a skeletal meshes. So we have the model of the mech divided in a couple different skeletal meshes, and we simply want to attach those, and that's really all we're going to do. So this is the mech body, and over here we want to select our mech base, and then it's a pretty big mech, but that's okay. So we want to make sure that it's facing the correct axis. So we're going to rotate it -90 on the Z axis, so it's facing forward. And now all we need to do is attach all of the other models that are attached to it. So I'm going to select the mech and then add another skeletal mesh. And I'm not going to bother entering the names, to be honest. So we have the missile pods and the missile tubes and the targeting system. So that's what we're going to add. So I'm going to start with the left missile pod. And then for the parent socket, we simply want to select our missile pod left over here. And then it should be okay because the rotation is already set, so that's fine. Select the mech over here, add another skeletal mesh and do the other missile pod, so that's the right one, and again attach it to the correct socket. So for this one we do need to set the rotation, so let's say -90, and then that's working. And then we have 2 more to go, so add another skeletal mesh. And we're going to pick our missile tubes and attach them to the missile tubes bone over here. And again, we want to reset the rotation. So this time the rotation is going to be 0. And then the last one is our targeting system. So that's also a skeletal mesh. And we're going to select the targeting system and attach it to the correct bone. So that's over here. And then we also need to zero out the transformation. So that's really all we need to do in here, and we can spawn this in the background of our main menu, and we're also going to spawn it in the lobby menu. For each player that enters the lobby, he will have his mech standing in the background, so we can see how many players are in the lobby, because the equal amount of mechs will be spawned inside of the lobby menu. So that's the first blueprint, and then the second one is going to be even simpler. So we're going to create the lobby player spot. So we're going to right click, create another blueprint class, and that's an actor again. So essentially this is kind of a player start, but then we're going to use this location to spawn our menu mechs inside of the lobby. So let's call this our blueprint lobby player spot. Open it up. And we don't need to set any defaults over here, so we're not going to replicate it. It's only going to be used by the server. So first of all, let's add our scene component and make this our root component. And then the only thing I'm going to add is an arrow component, so we can see which direction it's facing. And let me move the arrow up a little bit so it's not stuck inside the floor. And that should be all we need to do. Let me double check the rotation. No, we don't need to set rotation. It's facing the x-axis, so that's fine. So compile and save this one as well, and let's close it. Now we are ready to set up the actual maps that we're going to use. So we want to go to Pile and create a new level. And I'm going to create a basic level. So we don't have to worry about the lighting and things like that. Those will be set up from the beginning. So let's grab ourselves a viewport, and I'm gonna keep this really basic. So obviously you can make it look however you want. You can build a really cool level with all sorts of stuff in the background, but that's only going to take time, and we simply want to get this functional so you can make it look as cool as you want to. So for the scale, I'm going to scale down this mesh and make it 2 by 2 by 2 on the scale. So this is the floor, and we already imported a few materials from the starter content. So let's go to the materials folder, and I'm going to give this the concrete tiles material. And then we need some walls, so I'm going to hold Alt and then duplicate this and turn it 90 degrees. So we can use it as a wall. And simply place it on the sides of our floor. There we go. And duplicate it for the other side as well. And then we need a third one. So let's duplicate that one and put it in the back. So we have a cube with one open side. Nope. Let's see. Let's try to align this kind of properly. Okay, that'll work fine. So I'm going to select all three of the walls and give those another material. So I'm going to use the concrete panels for this one, like so. And then we want to grab our player spot and we're going to move it back a little bit and then move it up in the air. Somewhere like this, it doesn't really matter. And then we want to grab our menu mech, so we actually have something to look at. So let's go to the gameplays menu folder and drag in our mech. And I'm simply going to put it in the background and rotate it a little bit, so it looks a little bit more interesting. And that's really all we need to do, or at least that's all that I'm going to do for this level. So I'm going to reduce the lighting a little bit, so that looks a little bit better to me. That's fine, that's going to be our main menu. So let's file and then save current level as. And we actually going to create a new folder in here. So for the basic level, I'm going to create new folder, call this menus. Open it up, and in here I'm going to add my main menu map. And then we're going to use this as the base for our lobby as well. So let's grab a viewport again. And instead of spawning our menu mech, I'm going to get rid of this one. And I'm going to grab my lobby player spot and place it over here in the back. And make sure it's again rotated so it's kind of facing the player. Sort of in a 40-degree angle. And then I want to duplicate this 4 times. So first of all, let's make sure it's on the floor. Hit End on your keyboard to drop it down to the floor. And then we're simply going to duplicate it so we have 4 of them. So I'm going to make a lobby that will have a maximum of 4 players. So that's why I'll add 4 of them. And again, that's really all we need to do. So this is going to be my lobby menu. And again, you can make it as cool as you want to, but I'm not going to spend too much time on this. So this is going to be my lobby menu. And then obviously I messed up the main menu by doing this. Okay, that wasn't too smart, maybe. Oh no, that's actually good. So cool, it didn't save the main menu. So we have a main menu with a menu mech, and we have a lobby menu with 4 lobby player spots and no menu mech. Okay, that's good to go. Now we can actually take a look at setting up the main menu widget. So let's create, oh, we already have a UI folder, so we're not going to create it. Let's go to UI and we're going to right click, user interface, and create a new widget blueprint, a user widget. And this is going to be our widget blueprint main menu. And open it up. So let's do the designer part first. The first thing we need is a canvas panel. So let's drop that on here. And then we probably want some kind of a title. So we're going to grab some text and we're going to drop it on top of our canvas panel. And for the text, well, I'm not going to use a border. You can wrap it in a border if you want to. So I'm going to grab the anchor and then align it to the top of the screen, where it's a full bar on the top side over here. And then for the offsets, I'm going to simply zero them out. So we have a offset of 0, we have a position Y of 0, we have an offset right of 0, and the size is going to be 100. Then we want to align the text to center. So for the justification over here, I'm going to say center. Then I'm going to type BattleMechs in here. Really. And I'm going to use a capital S at the end. I don't know why. Maybe it looks a little bit better. Maybe not. So again, do whatever you want. And this is not spelled correctly. There we go. BattleMechs. And I'm going to grab the correct font and stuff like that. So we use the Orbiton font. And I'm actually going to give this a little bit of an outline as well. So first of all, let me copy the font from my example project and paste it in here. So it's actually pretty big. We can say size to content and that will fix it. So for the color and opacity, I'm going to use my green color, hit OK, and then I'm going to go to the shadow offset over here and the shadow color. So I'm going to give it a yellow shadow, and then with a shadow offset of something like 5 or 6 units. So we have a little drop down shadow in here, and that looks fine to me. So now we want to make the border with the buttons in the middle. So let's grab a border and drag it in here. And first of all, let's do the alignment. So let me take a look at my example project. So let's anchor it to the center of the screen. Anchor center, and then position Y is going to be 0. The position X is going to be -30. And the size, I'm going to say 310 for X and 380 for Y. And it's going to be a little bit big for now, but we're going to add a few more buttons later. And then the alignment is going to be 0.5, 0.5, so it's kind of centered. Let's see, I'm going to give the content a padding. So over here for the content, we're going to say padding, and I'm going to simply enter 5 in here. So all of the padding is 5 on all sides and it's equal. And then we want to change the brush a little bit. So I'm going to go to appearance brush, and for the tint over here, I'm simply going to make it gray. So let's go all the way down to black. And then I'm going to set the opacity to something like 0.3. So it's a kind of gray transparent border over here. We want to grab this border and we're going to give it a name. So let's give it a name of main menu buttons. And we're going to enable is variable over here. And then we want to add some buttons in here. So to make sure that we can add multiple buttons, we want to add a vertical box first, because a border can only have one child and a vertical box can have multiple. So drag a vertical box inside of your border, and then we're going to go to the button and we're going to drag it in as well. And on top of the button, we're going to drag some text. So the first one is going to be our single player button. So let's grab the button and rename it. Button single player. And we want this to be a variable. So let's enable that one. And then we need to set up the style. So I'm going to copy this from my example project. Copy the style and paste it in here. So you want to set the normal, hovered and the pressed style, and you can make it look however you want. So I'm using the yellow color, and if it's pressed, I'm going to make it green. And I have them set up as a rounded box with outline settings over here. So the buttons are a little bit rounded at the edge. I think it looks a little bit better, but again, do whatever you prefer. So that's all good to go. I'm not gonna add padding, the size auto, that's all good to go. So let's go to the text. And for this one, we want to say single player. So let's change the text over here, single player. And obviously we want to give it the correct font as well. So I'm gonna copy that from my example project and paste it in here. So the Orbitron font, and you can size it however you want to. And I'm going to make the text black. So select it and simply make it all the way black, or any other color that you like, obviously. So this is our first button, single player, and we're going to select it over here and hit Ctrl D. So we can duplicate it and we get another button. And this is going to be our host game button. So let's rename the button itself first, button host game. And then change the text, and we're going to say host game. So let's grab this button again, duplicate it again, and this is going to be the join game or find game. So let's make it button find game and change the text again, find game. No, find game. Let's do it like this. And then we need one more button, so I'm going to duplicate it again, and this is going to be quit game. So button quit game, and change the text quit game. So I want this button to be all the way down, so I'm going to select the button, and then vertical alignment is going to be bottom, and then set it to fill. And then we can grab the host and the find game buttons, and we could say vertical alignment center, and then also fill, so it's spacing out a little bit. That's not too great, probably. So if we select the host game, well, for now this will work. We're going to change the alignment later anyway if we add new buttons. So you can set it up however you want. So this is going to be our main menu for now. Let's compile and save it, and let's start by taking a look at the graph. So the first thing I want to do is add a little function in here that we can use to simply enable and disable all of the menu buttons. So that's going to be pretty simple. We want to add a function, and let's call this set buttons enabled. And we want to give it an input, and that's going to be enabled or not. So let's call this enabled, and that's going to be boolean. Then we can simply grab our border for all of the main menu buttons, and we want to drag off the border, and set is enabled. So if we enable or disable a border, that will automatically enable or disable all the buttons inside of that border. So we can simply plug it in like so, and we can use this function to enable or disable the entire main menu. Okay, so that's good to go. Now let's take a look at the graph. So the event graph, and we want to set up a few of the buttons that we added, and we need a player controller for that. So we're going to do that on our event construct. We have event construct over here. We're going to right click, and we're going to get the owning player of this widget. So get owning player, and this will return a player controller. And we don't want to cast this. We're simply going to use the default player controller class. So that's really all we need. We don't need to access any specific functionalities from our player controller. So there's no need to cast it. So simply promote this to a variable and call this the player controller. And plug it in. So that's set on construct. First of all, let's take a look at the single player button. So we're going to select the button over here, and then we're going to add an on-clicked event. So this event fires when we click the button in game, and we simply want to open a level. So we're going to do open level by name, and we want to open our gameplay level, and in my case that is called basic level. So simply type the name in here. You don't need to specify a path or anything. This will simply work. So we have the basic level over here. That's what we're opening. So that's all we need to do if we want to play a solo game. Then let's take a look at the quit game button. So select quit game, add an on-clicked event. And for this one, we simply want to say quit game. And in here we can specify a specific player, so we're going to grab our player controller and drag that on top of there, and that should be good to go as well. Then we have our host and find game buttons, so let's do host game first, add an on-clicked event. And by the way, we didn't set up any subsystems yet for actually playing online, so this will only work on a LAN, local area network. But we're going to add the functionality anyway. So we have the button host game, and for this one we want to drag off and we want to create a session. So again, we need a player controller, so we're going to plug that in over here. I'm going to set the public connections to 4, so we can have a 4-player game, and let's enable local area network. Use lobbies if available, that's fine, and then we can use our set buttons enabled function over here. So if we click the create session, that's going to take a while, and we don't want the player to start clicking on all of the other buttons while he's waiting. So we're going to grab set buttons enabled and disable the main menu. Then we're going to copy and paste it. So if on failure, if for some reason this fails, we want to re-enable the main menu, otherwise the player is stuck. And if this is successful, then we simply want to open a level again. And in this case, we want to open our lobby menu level. So let's do open level by name. And this time we're going to say lobby menu map. So that's simply the level that we created a little bit earlier. You want to make sure you get the spelling correctly to open this map over here. So if the session is created, the host will automatically go to the lobby menu, and then the clients that join will join in this level. We do need to expand this over here, and for the options you want to add a listen in here. So you're going to do question mark and then listen. So this will make sure that this is a listen server, and the server will listen to incoming connections and they will actually be able to connect. So this is really important that you add this over here, otherwise it's not going to work. Okay, so that's good to go, and now we only have our find game button left. So let's go to button find game, add an on-clicked event. And for this one we want to find a session. Again, we need to plug in our player controller. For the maximum results, we're going to set this pretty high. So let's make it something like 50. It doesn't really matter. Enable use LAN, and you probably want to enable use lobbies. No, in this case it doesn't matter because it's local area network anyway. So let's just leave it like this. Again, we're going to enable and disable the buttons. So we're going to grab our button enabled, plug it in over here, and disable the main menu as soon as we click the find session button, and then we're going to re-enable it if it fails. So make sure on failure it's enabled again. And then if we actually find a session, we simply want to connect to that session. So we're going to drag off here and we're going to get a copy. So in this case we can simply get the first session that we find, because we're testing this locally, so we probably only find one session anyway. Drag off here and we're going to say join session. So we want to plug this inside of the on success pin, and again we need to plug in our player controller. That's good to go. And then if for some reason this failed, then we probably want to enable the main menu again. So we're going to grab the set buttons enabled, on failure enable it, and that's good to go. So on success, this will automatically join the host, so we don't have to do anything on success. That will be taken care of by itself. Okay, pretty cool. So this is our main menu graph, and for now that's all we're going to do in here, so that's pretty basic. We can get rid of this one, and now we need to set everything up to make sure it's actually working in game. And we need a player controller and a game mode for that. So I'm going to go to my framework folder, and in here I'm going to create a new folder called menus again. And in here I'm going to create the blueprints that we need, so the player controller and the game mode. So first of all, right click, create a new blueprint class and create a player controller. This is going to be my BP menu player controller. And then we want to right click, create a new blueprint class again, and that's going to be a game mode base. And this is going to be our BP menu game mode. So I'd like to make separate ones of these for the menus, so we can separate all of the logic and we don't have to put everything inside of the normal player controller and make it real messy. So that's what this is for. Let's open our menu player controller first, and we want to set up a small event graph. So let me grab my notes quickly. And this is going to be pretty simple. So we're going to grab event begin play, and for the menus we want to show our mouse cursor. So we want to be on the local player controller to do that, because that's the only one that actually has a monitor to view the widgets and the mouse cursor. So let's grab a branch for begin play, and we're going to say is locally controlled, or is local player controller, sorry. So select this one, hook it up to a branch. And then we simply want to set and show the mouse cursor. So we're going to right click and we're going to say set mouse cursor. And you want to get the one with the enumeration, so the green little pin over here. And we want to set it to the default cursor, because in game we are actually using our crosshair cursor that is different from the little arrow. So we're going to set it to default. And then we're going to drag off again and we're going to say show mouse cursor. And enable it, so we want to show it. And that's really all that we need to do for begin play on the event graph. But we also want to create a little function in here to display our main menu. So we're also going to create that function right away. Functions, create a new one. I'm going to call this UI show main menu. And the first thing I'm going to do in here is right click and create a widget. So we want to create our main menu widget. So select that from the drop-down menu first, and then drag off the return value, promote it to a variable, and this is our widget blueprint main menu. So if you did it in that order, then it will automatically assign the widget blueprint main menu over here. If this doesn't say main menu, but it says user widget, then you want to select it over here and look for the main menu widget to make sure it's the correct class. So select the widget blueprint main menu. The owning player is a reference to ourselves because we are the player controller, so we can simply hook that in over here. Then we're going to grab the widget blueprint main menu reference, and first of all we're going to check if this is valid. So if it's maybe already created but it's simply removed from the viewport. So if it's not valid, we're going to create it, and if it is valid, we only want to add it to the viewport. So then we're going to go over here and say add to viewport. Make sure you grab the is valid pin over here, and also after the create widget node you want to plug that in. So that's good to go, and then we want to set our input mode to UI only. So we're going to drag off here and set UI only. So set input mode UI only. The player controller again is a reference to ourselves, so we can plug that in. The widget to focus is going to be our main menu, so we can drag off and plug that in over here, and that's good to go. We don't want to lock the mouse cursor, and we could flush the input, but that doesn't really matter. So this simply means it will flush the input with all of the remaining inputs that might still be queued up, but we're gonna assume that there's nothing queued up in there anyway, so it's not really needed, but you can enable it. Okay, so let's compile and save, and that's our player controller. So we can go to our menu GameMode right now. So let's open up our newly created menu GameMode. And the first thing we want to do in here is set our player controller class. So for the class defaults, player controller class, we want to select our menu player controller, not Mac, but menu. And then we need to set up a small event graph in here as well. So let's go to the event graph. Let's get rid of begin, play, and tick. And we actually want to look for the event handle starting new player. So event handle starting new player. So this will fire for every player that enters the main menu, or in our case, perhaps the lobby menu, but we're going to look at that later. So at this point, you have to realize we are in the main menu, so we are not connected to any other players yet. And this main menu part will always be single player, so we don't need to worry about replication or owning clients or things like that. So what we want to do in here is, first of all, we're going to restart player. So we're going to drag off here and we're going to say restart player. So because we're overriding handle starting new player, we need to make sure the player actually spawns, and that is what this node does. And then we want to get our current level name. So get current level name. So we want to determine if we are in the main menu or the lobby menu. And for this case, we're only going to add the main menu logic. So we're going to drag off the return value here, and we're going to say switch on string. And with the node selected on the right side, you can add pin names. So we're going to add 2 pin names in here. The first one is going to be the main menu map. And the second one is going to be the lobby menu map. So make sure you fill in the names of the actual maps that you created over here. So if you named them differently in your project, make sure you use these names inside of the switch on string node. So we don't really need a default pin, and we can simply work with this. And if we are in a main menu map, then we want to grab the player controller from the event starting new player. We can drag off here and we can cast it to our menu player controller. So hook that one up to the main menu map pin, and then from here we can say UI show main menu. So the actual main menu widget will appear if we open the main menu level. Okay, that's good to go as well. So let's compile and save that. Then we want to go to the levels over here. So first of all, let's open our main menu map. And we're going to go to the world settings. And over here for the game mode override, we're going to say the menu game mode. And then let's save it. and open our lobby menu map, and in here the same thing. So world settings, game mode override, select our menu game mode and save it. And then we need to go, let me see, to our project settings. So let's do that first. Edit project settings. And in here, if we go to maps and modes, we have the default game mode as the BattleMechs game mode. So that's good. It will automatically assign that to our basic level. We do want to open our main menu level if we open the game though. So that's what I'm going to change in here. The editor startup map is going to be the main menu map, and also the game default map is going to be the main menu map. So that's good to go. And now there's one small thing that we need to change inside of our actual Mac player controller. So let's go to the Mac folder and open the Mac player controller. So in here for begin play, so that's all the way over here. We want to make sure that we set our input mode back to game NUI, because we changed it to game earlier in the menu controller. So for event begin play, we're going to go all the way to the end, and this is game only. Oh, we already have this in here instead of game. Oh, we're using the custom cursor. So this might actually work. Let's try this first. I don't think we need to change it. So make sure you have input mode game only inside of your Mac player controller on the begin play event. And that should pretty much work. So let's hit play for now. And nothing is spawning. So let me see. One player. Listen server, that should work. That doesn't really matter. I have the lobby menu open instead of our main menu, so that's not going to work. So make sure you have the main menu opened and then hit play. And that looks a little bit better. So let's see, we have these buttons. Let's check quit game first. That's working, so that was pretty simple. Let's hit single player. And now it's actually opening up the game, and we have control of the Mac, so our input mode game only is actually working. So that's good to know as well, and we can actually start playing the game. So currently we don't have a pause menu yet, so the only thing we can do is actually close the game, and let's relaunch it. And we can hit host game, and at this point you don't see anything really happening, but it should open the lobby menu. So over here, let's see. No, it's hard to notice at this point, so we're not actually going to worry too much about it. You can see it's the lobby menu because there's no Mac in the background. In the next episode, we're going to set up the actual lobby menu and make sure that we are able to find the game and host the game, and everything is actually working. So for now, I'm going to cut it off at this point. We have a main menu set up and we have something to work with. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider leaving a like or sharing the video or the playlist with somebody else. And I want to thank you all for watching. Later guys and girls, bye bye.